Hey everyone, today we're digging into a pretty intense power struggle happening right now in the Nigerian oil industry. We're talking about a brand new, massive refinery, some really powerful interests pushing back, and what could be a huge battle for the future of the country's energy independence. So let's just get right into it. So I want to frame this whole thing with one big question for you. What happens when a country's biggest, most important industrial project runs into some serious opposition? Not from outside competitors, but supposedly from its very own government agencies and unions. I mean, sabotage from within? Okay, so right at the heart of this whole conflict is the brand new, absolutely massive Dangote Refinery. This thing is supposed to be a total game changer for Nigeria, but the source material we're looking at says its launch has been, well, anything but smooth. In fact, it's been hit with some serious, organized resistance from powerful groups inside the country, like right from day one. And this is really the key. The whole situation boils down to two completely different stories. You have the official narrative, right? The one that says all this opposition is just to protect Nigeria from a dangerous monopoly. But then the source we're examining alleges something totally different. It claims this is really all about protecting the huge personal profits that a few people are making from importing fuel. Okay, so let's unpack that official story first. The public reason, the one you'll hear from official channels for this whole campaign against the refinery, it's all about the fear of a monopoly. So, according to the text we're breaking down, government agencies and unions were actively campaigning against this refinery. Their stated goal was pretty straightforward: stop one single company from getting total control of Nigeria's fuel market. And look, on the surface, that sounds like a pretty reasonable concern, right? But is that what's really going on here? Let's flip over to the other side of the argument now, because our source suggests that this whole fear of monopoly thing, it might just be a convenient cover for something, well, a lot less noble. And check out this quote from the source, because it really gets to the heart of the counterargument. It just throws the official logic right out the window. It basically asks, how on earth does it make any sense to hurt a local industry that's creating jobs by continuing to depend on foreign imports, all just to supposedly prevent a monopoly? The logic just doesn't seem to add up. So let's break down what the source is really alleging here. First, it's saying this has nothing to do with a monopoly. That's just a smokescreen to protect the very profitable business of importing fuel. Second, it argues that this whole effort is actively damaging Nigeria's economy and getting rid of jobs. And finally, and this is a key point, the text says it's the new presidential administration that's finally showing the political will to stand up to all this resistance. Okay, so you've got the official claim on one side and this serious counterclaim on the other. But what do the actual numbers say? Because the source argues that once you start looking at the data, that whole fear of a monopoly, well, it starts to look pretty flimsy. Let's just start with a simple number from the source. How many refineries are actually up and running in Nigeria right now? The answer is 6. That's right, not 1, 6. And when you look at the breakdown, it gets even more interesting. Now, don't get me wrong, the Dangote Refinery is huge. It's by far the largest. But it's still just one player in a market that has 5 other operating refineries. So the very existence of these other facilities kind of pokes a big hole in the idea of a one-company monopoly, doesn't it? But wait, the story doesn't stop there. On top of the 6 that are already working, guess how many new refineries are being built as we speak? 11. 11 more. And we're not talking about small projects here. We're talking about some absolute giants, including 2 new refineries that are each planned for 500,000 barrels per day. So the source uses all this data to paint a picture of Nigeria's future refining scene, and it looks diverse, strong, and actually really competitive. So, okay, let's step back from the numbers and the corporate arguments for a second. What does all this fighting really mean for Nigeria? According to the source, we're not just talking about some industrial disagreement here. This is basically a battle for the soul of the nation's economy. Yeah, let's talk about the human side of this. The source points out that the Dangote Refinery alone has already created over 20,000 local jobs. So when you hear about opposition, the source is framing it as a direct threat, not just to some big company, but to the actual livelihoods of tens of thousands of people. Now, you'll see this phrase pop up again and again in the source: selfish interests. So what does it mean in this context? Well, it's basically describing a network of officials and their buddies who are getting rich from the current system of importing fuel. And because of that, they have a pretty big financial reason to want local refineries to fail. And to put a face on this alleged corruption, the source gives a really jaw-dropping example. It claims that a single official spent the equivalent of $5 million from shady sources just to pay for their kids' school fees abroad. And just to put that into perspective, because this is what really shows you the stakes, that exact same amount of money could have paid for 7,500 Nigerian students to go to university for 5 years. The source uses that incredible contrast to show the choice here. Is it about personal greed, or is it about developing the nation? So all of this, it brings Nigeria to a massive crossroads. The way the source presents it, this isn't just a small decision. It's a fundamental choice about the entire future of the country's energy and its economy. And the source really frames this as a choice between two very clear paths. Path number one, keep relying on expensive fuel imports, a system that it claims makes a tiny group of people very rich while bleeding the nation dry. Or path number two, embrace your own domestic refining, a move that could bring jobs, grow the economy, and finally deliver real energy independence. And that really leaves us with one last big provocative question. As Nigeria's ability to refine its own oil finally ramps up, is it going to be the engine for true economic independence? Or is this huge shift in power and money just going to set off new, maybe even bigger conflicts? You know, it's a classic problem for countries with a lot of natural resources. And for sure, the world is going to be watching to see which path Nigeria chooses.